Earth is full of wonders. Some are explained. Others remain hidden in silence, across deserts and oceans, deep within jungles and mountains, and even beyond our skies. We find mysteries that refuse to give us answers. They are questions carved into stone, written in forgotten languages, and burned into the memory of landscapes themselves. These are the puzzles of our planet, enigmas that remind us how much we still don't know. This journey takes us through 30 of Earth's greatest mysteries, some ancient, some modern, some resting in myth, others waiting in plain sight. Each one whispers the same truth. The world is stranger than we imagine, and our first mystery lies at the heart of the Sahara Desert. From above, the Sahara is a sea of gold, endless dunes stretching into the horizon, shaped by winds that have blown for thousands of years. But in the middle of this vast emptiness lies something impossible to ignore. A colossal circle, nearly 50 kilometers across, carved into the desert like the mark of a giant hand. From space, it looks like an eye staring back at the heavens. A perfect bullseye, framed by stone and sand. This is the Eye of the Sahara, also known as the Rishat structure. For centuries, travelers crossed this land without realizing what surrounded them. At ground level, the eye is hard to see, its scale too vast, its rings too subtle. But when the first astronauts saw it from orbit, they were stunned. Here, in the middle of nowhere, was a spiral so vast it could only be measured in miles. Theories came quickly. Some said it was the scar of a meteorite. Others believed it was the remains of a supervolcano. But scientists found no evidence for either. Instead, they believed the eye began as a giant dome of rock, lifted up from the Earth's crust and slowly worn down by wind and rain until only the rings remained. It is a natural wonder, yet one that looks anything but natural. That strange perfection is what has fueled one of the most intriguing ideas about the Eye of the Sahara. That it isn't just a geological formation, that it might, in fact, be the lost city of Atlantis. Thousands of years ago, the philosopher Plato described Atlantis as a mighty city built in concentric circles of land and water. A city surrounded by mountains to the north, with open plains to the south. For centuries, explorers searched the seas for it. But here, in Mauritania, the Rishat structure matches that description almost exactly. The rings, the mountains, the plains, even its size. The resemblance is haunting. There's one problem. Today, the Sahara is far from the ocean, but landscapes change, seas shift, rivers vanish, and stories blur over time. Could Atlantis have once stood here, before the desert claimed it? Or is this just coincidence? Archaeologists caution that no evidence of a great city has been found. No ruins, no temples, no artifacts. Only rock and silence. But for many, that silence is part of the mystery. The Eye of the Sahara may not hold the key to Atlantis. It may not be the mark of a meteor or the scar of a supervolcano, but it does hold something else. The reminder that Earth still keeps secrets. Secrets large enough to be seen from space. Secrets that survive even in the harshest deserts. Secrets that challenge the way we think we understand our own planet. This is the beginning of our journey. A journey into the unknown. A journey through the mysteries that shape our world and lie far beyond it. And as the Eye of the Sahara stares back at us from the heart of the desert, it leaves us with one question. What other secrets still wait to be uncovered? High on a hill in southeastern Turkey, beneath layers of soil and time, lies a place that has rewritten human history. A site so old, so advanced, that it challenges everything we thought we knew about civilization. Its name is Göbekli Tepe. To many, it is simply the world's oldest temple. But to others, it is proof that humanity's story began far earlier, and in far stranger ways than we ever imagined. The year was 1994. A team of archaeologists began excavating a dusty mound near the city of Şanlıurfa. What they uncovered stunned the world. Rising from the earth were massive stone pillars, some over 5 meters tall, arranged in perfect circles. Each weighed several tons, and carved into them were strange animals: foxes, snakes, boars, vultures, etched with a skill that should not have existed at the time. The site was quickly dated, 10,000 years old, older than Stonehenge, older than the pyramids, older even than the invention of the wheel. Göbekli Tepe stood at the dawn of civilization, at a time when humans were still thought to be hunter-gatherers, living in small bands, without permanent homes, without organized religion, and certainly without the ability to move and shape stones this massive. Yet here it was, monumental architecture, designed and built long before such things were supposed to exist. The mystery deepened. Why was it built? Who carved these stones? And how did people with no metal tools, no domesticated animals, no cities, manage such an impossible task? Theories began to emerge. Some said it was a temple, the world's first house of worship. Others argued it was an ancient observatory, aligned to the stars, used to track the heavens. Still others believed it was a gathering place, where tribes met not only to worship, but to create the bonds that would eventually lead to organized society. And yet, there are no traces of daily life at Göbekli Tepe. No homes, no cooking hearths, no evidence of a city, only circles of stone carefully built, then buried under earth and rubble. It is as if the builders created this place, used it for a time, and then deliberately sealed it away, leaving it for the future to find. Was this an act of reverence, a ritual closure, or a message to those who would come after? The carvings themselves raise even more questions. Animals dominate the pillars, but their meaning is unknown. Some scholars believe they represent constellations, a map of the night sky carved in stone. Others think they were guardians, totems of power and protection. A few even suggest they hint at myths long older than any we know today, stories carried from an age before writing, now frozen in stone. And then there is the question of knowledge. If Göbekli Tepe was built by hunter-gatherers, then our entire timeline of human development shifts. Civilization may not have grown out of farming, as once believed. Instead, farming may have grown out of civilization. People may have gathered first to build temples and monuments, and only later learned to cultivate the land to sustain such gatherings. If true, this turns history on its head. Religion and culture may have come before agriculture, belief before bread. Göbekli Tepe is still being uncovered. Less than 10% of the site has been excavated. What lies beneath remains hidden. More circles, more pillars, perhaps more answers or more questions. Each stone that rises from the soil pulls us further back into a past we do not fully understand. For now, Göbekli Tepe stands as a reminder that our ancestors were not simple, that they were capable of vision, organization, and purpose long before history says they should have been. It is not just a site, it is a riddle in stone. A riddle that asks us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about ourselves. Here, on a quiet hill in Turkey, the story of civilization begins again. And it begins not with villages or kings or empires, but with mystery. In the hushed corridors of libraries and archives, there are books that preserve the wisdom of the ages. Histories of kings and empires, records of science and art, tales of gods and myths. Most can be read, studied, and understood. But then, there is one book that refuses to speak. A manuscript filled with strange drawings, written in a language no one has ever been able to read. A book that seems to exist outside of time. This is the Voynich Manuscript, perhaps the most mysterious book in the world. Its story begins in 1912 when a rare book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich purchased an old volume from a Jesuit college in Italy. At first glance, it appeared to be a medieval manuscript, handwritten on vellum, its pages filled with neat flowing script. But when Voynich looked closer, he realized something extraordinary. The words were written in an alphabet no one recognized. Not Latin, not Greek, not any known language. And alongside the text were illustrations, hundreds of them equally baffling. Plants that don't exist. Diagrams of stars and moons that make little sense. Pages filled with tiny naked figures bathing in pools and tubes, connected by impossible plumbing. Strange circles, zodiac-like wheels, and what appear to be recipes written in the same undecipherable script. The manuscript seemed to come from a world both familiar and alien at the same time. Experts were called in. Cryptographers, historians, even military codebreakers. During World War II, when some of the best minds were breaking Nazi codes, a few of them also tried their hand at the Voynich Manuscript. None succeeded. The text has patterns like a real language, repeated words, grammatical structure, but no one can match it to anything on Earth. To this day, no one has read a single sentence. Radiocarbon dating has revealed the vellum dates to the early 1400s. So we know the book is real, but that only deepens the mystery. Who wrote it? And why? Theories range from the reasonable to the fantastic. Some believe it was written by a medieval alchemist, hiding secret knowledge of plants and medicine in a coded script. Others think it may have been the work of an eccentric genius, inventing both a new language and a new world to go with it. There are those who suggest it's a hoax, created to fool a wealthy collector into paying a fortune for a book of nonsense. But if it's a hoax, it is one of extraordinary effort. Over 200 pages of carefully written text, with a structure too consistent to be random. And then, there are the more extraordinary ideas. That the Voynich Manuscript is a relic from an unknown civilization, its language long lost. That it is an encoded message passed down from a secret society. Some even whisper that it might not be of human origin at all. That the plants, the diagrams, the script itself belong to a mind not of this earth. What we know for certain is this. The Voynich Manuscript resists us. For centuries, every attempt to crack its code has failed. Every algorithm, every linguistic model, every human effort. It remains sealed, its meaning locked away, waiting. Perhaps it is knowledge we once had and lost. Perhaps it is knowledge we were never meant to have. Today, the manuscript rests in Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book Library, preserved under careful watch. Visitors can see its pages, but not understand them. It whispers from behind glass, as though daring us to listen harder, to look closer, to try again. And each year, new researchers rise to the challenge, convinced they might be the one to finally hear its voice. The Voynich Manuscript is more than a book. It is a mirror, reflecting our hunger for understanding and our frustration when faced with silence. It is a reminder that not all mysteries are buried in deserts or carved in stone. Some sit quietly in the pages of a book, waiting for us to turn them. And sometimes, even with all our science and technology, the past still keeps its secrets. Until the Voynich Manuscript is read, it remains a riddle, a book without a voice, a story without an ending, a question written in ink 600 years ago, still unanswered today. In the middle of the Karakum Desert, where the winds whip across barren sands and the horizon stretches endlessly, there is a fire that never dies. A crater, wide as a football field, glowing with an infernal light. Flames leap from its depths. Heat radiates into the night air, and for more than 50 years, it has burned without pause. The locals call it the door to hell. The story begins in 1971, during the Soviet Union's search for natural gas in Turkmenistan. Engineers set up drills in the desert, confident they had found a rich deposit. But as the machines cut deeper, the ground gave way. A massive cavern collapsed, swallowing the equipment and leaving behind a gaping hole, 70 meters wide, 30 meters deep. At first, it looked like a simple accident, another failed dig site. But within days, something happened. Poisonous methane gas began to leak out, threatening the air and the nearby villages. The engineers faced a choice: leave it and risk disaster, or find a way to burn the gas off quickly. They chose fire. Expecting the flames to consume the gas within weeks, they set the crater alight. But weeks passed, then months, then years. The fire did not stop. What was meant to be a temporary burn-off has now lasted more than half a century. Day and night, the crater blazes on, an unearthly wound in the desert floor. From miles away, its glow can be seen, like a torch guiding the lost, or a warning to stay away. Over time, the door to hell has taken on a life of its own. Locals weave legends around it, calling it a portal to the underworld, a place where spirits wander and the earth reveals its fury. Tourists who venture near describe the sensation as surreal, standing at the edge of the pit, staring into a furnace that seems alive, the heat licking at their skin, the roar of the fire like a living beast. Photographs hardly capture it. It is not just a sight, it is an experience, a reminder that the ground beneath our feet is never as solid as it seems. Scientists, too, have found it fascinating. Studies have revealed colonies of heat-resistant microbes living in the crater, surviving in temperatures that should destroy life. If organisms can thrive here, in this inferno of gas and flame, what might survive on other planets? Worlds with toxic atmospheres and burning surfaces. In this way, the door to hell is more than a spectacle. It is a laboratory of extremes, a glimpse into both the fragility and resilience of life. And yet, beyond science and legend, the crater carries a quieter message, a reminder of human error. A single mistake, an accident of drilling and fire, has left behind something that no one can control. A flame we cannot put out. It is as though the earth itself has claimed the fire as its own, refusing to let it die. Today, the door to hell continues to burn, day after day, year after year. A pit of fire in the middle of a silent desert. A monument not built by kings or civilizations, but by accident. Half human, half nature. A mistake that became a mystery. A scar that became a legend. Stand at its edge, and you feel it. The pull of the flames, the weight of the heat. The reminder that beneath the calm surface of our world lies a hidden power, vast, volatile, and eternal. High in the arid deserts of southern Peru, where the sun blazes and rain almost never falls, lies one of the most puzzling creations on Earth. Across the dry ground, stretching for miles, enormous shapes have been carved into the desert floor. Lines so vast, they can only be truly seen from the air. A monkey with a coiled tail, a spider, a hummingbird mid-flight. Straight lines running for kilometers across the landscape, intersecting like runways in the sand. These are the Nazca Lines, one of the greatest mysteries of the ancient world. The Nazca culture flourished between 200 BCE and 600 CE, In a land almost impossible to survive, they built irrigation systems, crafted intricate pottery, and left behind these astonishing geoglyphs. The figures were created by removing the dark surface stones of the desert, exposing the lighter sand beneath. The designs have survived for centuries thanks to the desert itself, one of the driest places on Earth, where wind and rain rarely disturb the ground. Today, more than 800 stray ophthalmology lines, 300 ophthalmometric feoftures, and 70 animal and plant shapes have been documented, covering nearly 450 square kilometers. But the question remains, why were they made? Some scholars believe the Nazca lines were tied to astronomy. Certain lines align with the rising or setting of the sun during solstices. Others may mark the position of stars or constellations important to their culture. In this view, the desert became a vast observatory, a calendar written into the earth. Another theory suggests they were ritual pathways, walked during ceremonies to call for rain in a land where water was precious. The figures, animals, plants, symbols, may have been offerings to the gods, visible from above where spirits were believed to dwell. And then, there are the more extraordinary ideas. In the 20th century, some claimed the Nazca lines were runways for alien spacecraft, pointing to their immense scale and precision. While mainstream science rejects this, the extraterrestrial theory has given the site an almost mythical aura, fueling imagination and fascination worldwide. Whether spiritual, practical, or otherworldly, the true purpose of the Nazca lines remains unknown. What makes them even more remarkable is how invisible they are from the ground. Standing among them, the lines appear as shallow trenches, unremarkable in the vast desert. Only from the air do the figures reveal themselves in full. This has led some to wonder, did the Nazca people create them for gods who look down from the sky? Or did they themselves climb nearby hills and ridges to see their work take shape? Either way, the scale suggests vision, planning, and a deep connection between land, sky, and spirit. In modern times, the Nazca lines face new challenges. Highways and human activity have cut across some of the ancient paths. In 2014, activists walking across the desert left footprints that damaged parts of the figures. Preservation is difficult. The lines are fragile, and even a single careless step can erase marks that have endured for centuries. Satellite imaging and drone surveys now help archaeologists monitor the site, discovering new shapes even in recent years. But protecting them from time, and from us, remains a struggle. The Nazca lines endure as one of humanity's strangest legacies. They are too vast to be fully grasped from the earth, too old for us to know their maker's intentions, and too precise to dismiss as mere art. They force us to ask questions. Were they maps, messages, rituals carved for gods above, or something we still cannot imagine? As the sun sets over the Peruvian desert, the lines remain, etched in silence. A spider sprawled across the earth, a hummingbird forever in flight. A message written on the skin of the world, its meaning still hidden, waiting for us to understand. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, the silence of Siberia was shattered. In one of the most remote regions on Earth, near the Podkamennaya Tunguska River, the sky erupted. A fireball blazed across the heavens, brighter than the sun. Moments later, an explosion shook the land with the force of a nuclear bomb, decades before such weapons even existed. In an instant, 800 square miles of forest were flattened. 80 million trees snapped like matchsticks. The shockwave was felt hundreds of miles away. Windows shattered. Horses were thrown to the ground. And yet, no crater was ever found. For those living in the vast wilderness of Siberia, the event was unforgettable. Witnesses described a pillar of fire streaking across the sky. Others spoke of thunder that rolled for hours. A few claimed to see the sky split apart, revealing a blinding light, followed by waves of heat so intense they thought the world itself was ending. Some villages saw the night sky glow for days afterward, so bright that in London and across Europe, thousands of miles away, people reported being able to read newspapers at midnight without a lamp. Whatever happened that morning, it was unlike anything humanity had seen before. Scientists rushed to explain it. The leading theory is that a meteor or comet entered Earth's atmosphere at incredible speed, exploding a few miles above the ground in what's known as an airburst. The blast, equivalent to 10 to 15 megatons of TNT, leveled the forest without leaving a traditional impact crater. The energy was released in the sky, not in the ground. But this explanation, while convincing, still leaves questions. Why has no trace of a meteorite ever been found? No fragments of rock, no minerals, no debris large enough to confirm the cause. Just scorched earth and flattened trees pointing outward from the blast's center like the spokes of a wheel. Other theories quickly followed. Some scientists suggested an icy comet core that vaporized completely, leaving no fragments behind. Others proposed more exotic explanations. Could antimatter have collided with our world, annihilating itself and releasing pure energy? Could a miniature black hole have passed through Earth, tearing open the sky before vanishing again into space? And then, of course, came the whispers of UFOs, that perhaps the Tunguska explosion was not a natural event at all, but the crash of something not of this Earth. While mainstream science rejects such claims, the absence of clear evidence has kept them alive for over a century. To this day, Tunguska remains the largest recorded impact event in human history. Yet it struck in one of the most isolated places on the planet. Had it exploded over a major city, the destruction would have been unimaginable. Millions could have died. Instead, it happened in the emptiness of Siberia, far from the centers of civilization. A warning, perhaps, of how vulnerable we truly are to the vast forces of the cosmos. The forests of Tunguska have regrown, but the mystery has never faded. Expeditions still travel into the remote wilderness, searching for answers. Was it a meteor, a comet, or something stranger still? The evidence is scattered, the crater is missing, and the sky over Siberia keeps its secrets. More than 100 years later, the world's greatest explosion remains an unsolved chapter in Earth's story. The Tunguska event reminds us of a truth both humbling and terrifying, that in the grand theater of the universe, we are never completely safe. Above us in the dark, countless objects still circle the sun. And at any moment, one might fall again. Beneath the rolling plains of central Turkey lies a world hidden from the sun. A maze of stone corridors, stairways, and chambers stretching deep underground. For centuries, it remained unknown to the outside world until chance revealed it. Today, it is called Derinkuyu, one of the largest underground cities ever discovered. A place vast enough to shelter 20,000 people, their animals, their food, their entire lives, carved into the rock, far below the Earth's surface. The story of Derinkuyu's rediscovery begins in 1963, when a man renovating his home in Cappadocia broke through a wall and found not more stone, but a hidden passageway. That passage led into darkness, and that darkness opened into a city, dozens of levels deep, a hidden world waiting in silence. Explorers soon realized what they had uncovered. Derinkuyu was not just a cave system. It was an engineered settlement carefully designed. Wide shafts brought in air. Wells provided water. Tunnels stretched for miles, connecting chambers large and small. There were stables for livestock, storage rooms for grain and wine, kitchens, schools, and even chapels carved into the rock. Doors of massive circular stone could be rolled into place to seal off passages, defenses against anyone who might try to enter. But who built it, and why? Some archaeologists suggest the earliest tunnels may have been dug by the Phrygians nearly 3,000 years ago, later expanded by Byzantine Christians fleeing invasion. Others believe the Hittites may have carved the first chambers even earlier, during the 2nd millennium BCE. What we know for certain is that over centuries, generations of people used Derinkuyu as a refuge. When enemies swept across the plains, entire populations could vanish underground, hiding for weeks at a time. Fires burned, children played, prayers were whispered, all beneath the earth, safe from the chaos above. Walking through Derinkuyu today, the scale is staggering. Narrow corridors descend deeper and deeper, eventually reaching depths of more than 250 feet. Some passages are so tight you must squeeze through sideways, while others open into vast halls large enough for hundreds of people. The engineering is astonishing. Ventilation shafts keep the air flowing across miles of tunnels, and wells ensured that even if the city was sealed from above, life could continue below. It was, in every sense, a functioning underground civilization. And yet, many questions remain. Was Derinkuyu built purely for defense, a last refuge against war, or was it something more? Some believe it was designed as a sanctuary, not just from enemies, but from the environment itself. Shelter from harsh winters, volcanic eruptions, or even disasters lost to history. A few more speculative voices suggest it may have been older still, the work of a forgotten culture whose name we no longer know. In a place so vast, carved so carefully, mystery lingers in every stone. Derinkuyu is not alone. Across Cappadocia, more than 200 smaller underground cities have been discovered, some linked together by tunnels stretching for miles. Together, they suggest a network of hidden worlds beneath the surface of Anatolia. But Derinkuyu remains the largest and most elaborate of them all. A city that could breathe, drink, and live entirely underground. Today, visitors walk its passages by torchlight, their footsteps echoing where thousands once moved in silence. The air is cool, the walls close, the sense of history overwhelming. It is easy to imagine families huddled here, waiting for danger to pass, listening for the distant sounds of war above. Easy to imagine the relief when, at last, they could climb back into the light. Derinkuyu reminds us that human survival has never been only about strength or weapons. It has also been about imagination, adaptation, and the will to endure. In the face of threats, known and unknown, people built a city beneath their feet, and in doing so, left behind one of Earth's greatest underground mysteries. In the northern reaches of Tanzania, near the border with Kenya, there lies a lake unlike any other. Its surface shimmers red beneath the African sun. Its waters are caustic, burning to the touch. And for those creatures unlucky enough to fall into it, the lake offers no mercy. Instead, they emerge transformed, preserved in eerie detail, their bodies hardened into ghostly statues. This is Lake Natron, a place where science and legend blur, and where the line between life and death is written in stone. Lake Natron is shallow, only a few meters deep in most places, but it stretches nearly 60 kilometers across. Fed by mineral-rich hot springs and little rainfall, Its waters are dense with salt and soda. Temperatures can climb above 60 degrees Celsius, and the water's pH is as high as ammonia, caustic enough to burn skin. It is an environment so extreme, so inhospitable, that most forms of life cannot survive. And yet, paradoxically, life thrives here in strange and unexpected ways. The lake's vivid red color comes from salt-loving microorganisms, which bloom in the shallow waters. These same organisms attract flamingos by the thousands, who feast on the algae and make Lake Natron one of their most important breeding grounds. Here, on this alien landscape, colonies of delicate pink birds thrive on waters that would kill almost anything else. But the most haunting feature of Lake Natron is what it does to those who are not adapted. Birds, bats, and other animals that crash into its surface are quickly overwhelmed. The salts and minerals seep into their bodies, calcifying them, preserving them as though carved from stone. Their forms, wings spread, eyes frozen, claws outstretched, wash ashore like statues, eerily lifelike. To stand at the edge of the lake is to feel as though one is walking among a gallery of the dead, their final moments captured in mineral stillness. For the people who live near Lake Natron, the lake has always carried an air of mystery. Local myths describe it as cursed, a place where spirits dwell and where death lingers in the air. Some say the red waters are blood, spilled from ancient battles or the wrath of gods. To approach carelessly is to risk one's life, for the lake does not forgive mistakes. These stories echo the truth in symbolic form, that Lake Natron is beautiful, but also dangerous, a place both sacred and feared. Scientists, too, are captivated. The very chemicals that calcify animals also preserve them in incredible detail, making the lake a kind of natural mummification chamber. Studying these remains offers rare insight into biology, preservation, and the fine line between survival and destruction. Some researchers even see Lake Natron as a model for extreme environments elsewhere in the solar system. If life can endure here, among salt, heat, and caustic water, perhaps it can endure on distant planets as well. And so, Lake Natron stands as one of Earth's strangest paradoxes, a place of death that sustains life, a lake that destroys and yet shelters, a red mirror of water where flamingos dance and statues of stone stare silently from the shore. Science can explain its chemistry, its salts, its microorganisms, but science cannot strip away its aura. To those who see it, Lake Natron feels like more than just a lake. It feels like a threshold, a reminder that beauty can be lethal, and that even here on Earth, some landscapes are so alien they seem touched by another world. Rising from the sands of Giza, they have stood for more than 4,000 years, immovable, unshaken, eternal. The great pyramids of Egypt, monuments to kings, symbols of eternity, and perhaps the greatest architectural mystery in human history. Even today, in an age of satellites and skyscrapers, they continue to defy complete understanding. How were they built? Why were they aligned with such precision? And what deeper knowledge might they conceal? The Great Pyramid of Khufu, the largest of them all, towers nearly 150 meters high. For centuries, it was the tallest human-made structure on Earth. Built from over 2 million limestone blocks, some weighing more than 70 tons, it is aligned to true north with remarkable accuracy. So precise is this alignment that modern surveyors still struggle to explain how ancient builders achieved it without compasses, lasers, or advanced instruments. The pyramid's base is almost a perfect square. Its sides deviate from exact cardinal points by less than a fraction of a degree. This is engineering precision few structures can match, even today. Mainstream archaeology tells us the pyramids were tombs, built during the Old Kingdom as eternal resting places for pharaohs. But beyond that simple explanation lies something more enigmatic. The internal passages twist in unusual ways. Chambers lie hidden within the stone, some only recently discovered using advanced scanning technology. Narrow shafts cut upward through the structure appear to point directly at stars, including Orion's belt and Sirius, celestial markers important to ancient Egyptian belief. Were the pyramids simply monuments to kings? Or were they also machines of the cosmos, aligning the power of heaven with the rule of earth? Alternative theories abound. Some argue the pyramids were not tombs at all, but repositories of ancient knowledge. Others suggest they were vast energy devices, capturing and focusing the Earth's natural forces. A few even claim they are far older than we think, built not by the Egyptians we know, but by a forgotten civilization lost to history. While such ideas remain controversial, they reflect one truth. The pyramids are too extraordinary to be explained away easily. They challenge us, and so imagination fills the gaps where history remains silent. What we do know is that the pyramids demanded an unprecedented effort. Tens of thousands of workers, decades of labor, and organizational skills that speak to an advanced society. Yet no blueprints survive. No detailed records of the construction exist. The Egyptians left us the finished product, but not the manual. And so, questions endure. How were the stones moved? How were they set in place with such precision? Was it ramps, levers, or methods we have yet to rediscover? Each answer leads only to more speculation. For the people of ancient Egypt, the pyramids were more than stone. They were symbols of rebirth, stairways to the stars, bridges between the mortal and the divine. They anchored the pharaoh's soul to the heavens, ensuring immortality. And in a sense, they achieved that goal. Thousands of years later, the pyramids remain. They outlasted empires, weathered the desert, and continue to inspire awe in every generation that beholds them. The Great Pyramids stand as proof of ancient genius, a mastery of stone, mathematics, and vision that still humbles us. Whether we see them as tombs, star temples, or messages from the past, they remind us of humanity's eternal drive to build, to dream, and to reach beyond what seems possible. They are not just monuments to kings long dead. They are monuments to mystery itself, guardians of secrets the sands still refuse to give up. On a quiet August evening in 1977 at Ohio State University's Big Ear radio telescope, something extraordinary happened. For 72 seconds, the telescope picked up a signal, loud, clear, and unlike anything detected before. A radio burst, strong and focused, coming from deep space. When astronomer Jerry Amon reviewed the printout, he circled the spike in red ink and scribbled one word in the margin: "Wow." Since then, it has been known simply as the WOW signal. What made this signal so remarkable? For one, it was incredibly powerful, 70 times stronger than the normal background noise of space. Its frequency, 1420 megahertz, was also peculiar. That number corresponds to the natural emission frequency of hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe. Many scientists had speculated that if an intelligent civilization ever tried to make contact, they might choose that exact frequency, knowing it was universal. To receive a burst at that wavelength was almost too perfect to ignore. The signal came from the constellation Sagittarius, in the direction of the center of our galaxy. Yet no known planets, stars, or satellites were responsible. For 72 seconds, it shone. Then it vanished. And in the decades since, despite countless searches, it has never been heard again. Theories have swirled for years. Some argue the signal may have been caused by a natural celestial event, perhaps a comet or a burst of radiation we don't yet fully understand. Others insist it was artificial, a deliberate transmission sent across the stars. A cosmic hello, proof that we are not alone. The fact that it never repeated has only deepened the mystery. If it was truly a message, why only once? Was it a mistake? A fleeting transmission we were lucky enough to overhear? Or a signal aimed elsewhere that we just happened to catch on its way through? For skeptics, the wow signal is a case of wishful thinking. Without repetition, without confirmation, they argue, it can never be considered evidence of alien contact. But for many, its uniqueness is precisely what makes it compelling. Of all the noise we have listened to in the universe, of all the signals we have monitored, this one stands apart. Clear, strong, purposeful. The closest thing we've ever found to a voice in the dark. What lingers most about the wow signal is its silence. For nearly half a century, humanity has pointed telescopes toward the heavens, straining to hear something, anything like it again. And yet nothing. No reply. No echo. Just that single moment in 1970 even, frozen in time, and the universe seemed to whisper to us. For 72 seconds, it was as if we were not alone. And then the silence returned. Perhaps one day we will hear it again. Perhaps the stars are alive with voices, but we are only beginning to learn how to listen. Until then, the wow signal remains a symbol of both wonder and frustration, a message without a sender, a call without an answer, a cosmic mystery that reminds us how vast the universe truly is and how much of it still lies beyond our understanding. For 72 seconds, the universe spoke. We just don't know what it said. Deep in the heart of the Amazon rainforest, where mist clings to the trees and rivers weave through the jungle like veins of life, there flows a river unlike any other. From above, it looks ordinary, calm, winding, hidden beneath the canopy. But step closer, and you realize this is no ordinary river. Its waters steam, its surface ripples with heat. Fall into it, and you will not come out alive. This is the boiling river of the Amazon, one of Earth's rarest and most dangerous wonders. Known locally as Shanai Timpishka, which means boiled by the heat of the sun, the river stretches for more than 6 kilometers through the Peruvian rainforest. But it is not the sun that heats these waters. Temperatures in some parts reach over 90 degrees Celsius, hot enough to cook any living creature that enters. Small animals that stumble into the current are killed instantly, their bodies stripped to bone in moments. Even approaching the river is dangerous, the steam scalding, the air thick with heat. In a world where geothermal activity usually occurs near volcanoes, the boiling river is a mystery. There are no active volcanoes nearby, no obvious source of magma heating the waters. Yet here it is, a geothermal system hidden beneath the jungle, forcing Earth's fiery energy up through the crust and into the flow of this deadly river. For the indigenous people of the region, the boiling river is sacred. Legends tell of spirits that inhabit its waters, protectors of the jungle who punish those who enter without respect. Shamans speak of the river as a place of power, where the boundaries between the natural and the supernatural blur. To them, it is not just a river, but a living force, an expression of the Earth's breath. Stories passed down for generations describe how careless hunters and greedy men were swallowed by its heat. Warnings woven into myth to keep people safe from its deadly embrace. Modern science has only recently begun to study it. Researchers have discovered that the heat likely comes from deep geothermal faults, where groundwater seeps down, is superheated by the earth, and then resurfaces through the riverbed. But even this explanation does not answer everything. How can such a system exist so far from volcanic regions? How long has it been flowing like this? And how many other such rivers remain hidden in unexplored corners of the world? Standing at its edge, the boiling river is both beautiful and terrifying. The jungle hums with life all around, but the water itself is death. Mist rises in ghostly clouds, drifting through the trees. The air feels heavy, thick with unseen danger. It is a place where nature reveals its rawest power, untamed, unpredictable, and lethal. Few rivers in the world command such awe, not because of their size or strength, but because they defy our expectations of what should be possible. The boiling river is more than a scientific curiosity. It is a reminder of Earth's hidden fire, the energy that lies beneath our feet, capable of shaping life and death in an instant. It tells us that even in the most familiar places, the jungles, the rivers, the landscapes we think we understand, there are still wonders waiting to be discovered. Some that inspire, some that terrify, all that humble us. Here, in the depths of the Amazon, the earth shows its veins, and in their heat, we are reminded just how fragile we truly are. In 1901, off the coast of a small Greek island called Antikythera, sponge divers made a discovery that would change history. Among the remains of a 2,000-year-old shipwreck, bronze statues, amphorae, and treasures of the ancient world, they found something strange. A corroded lump of bronze, broken into fragments, its gears locked in rust. At first it seemed unremarkable, but as the pieces were studied, scholars realized this was no ordinary artifact. It was a machine, a device so advanced it would not be matched for more than 1,000 years. Today, it is known as the Antikythera mechanism, the world's first computer. The mechanism, reconstructed through decades of painstaking study, is a complex system of gears, dials, and wheels. When turned, it could predict the movements of the sun, the moon, and the 5 known planets of the ancient world. It tracked eclipses with precision. It charted lunar phases. It even modeled the irregular orbit of the moon, something that requires sophisticated mathematics. In other words, this device, built more than 2 millennia ago, was an astronomical calculator, a portable cosmos built in bronze. What makes the Antikythera mechanism so extraordinary is not just its accuracy, but its impossibility. According to history, mechanisms of such complexity should not have existed until the 14th century, when intricate clockwork appeared in Europe. And yet, here it was, in the hands of the ancient Greeks around 100 BCE. Its gears were cut with astonishing precision. Its functions rivaled those of Renaissance astronomy. It was not a tool of trial and error. It was a masterpiece of knowledge far ahead of its time. But who built it? Some attribute it to the school of Hipparchus, the great Greek astronomer, who studied the heavens with unmatched skill. Others point to Archimedes, whose genius spanned mathematics, engineering, and invention. Still others wonder if it was created by a lost tradition of craftsmanship, one that disappeared before history could record it. The truth remains uncertain. What is clear is that whoever built it possessed knowledge we did not expect the ancient world to hold. Knowledge of astronomy, mechanics, and mathematics that seemed centuries too advanced. The Antikythera mechanism also raises a haunting question. If this was only one device, found by chance in a shipwreck, how many more might have existed? Was this a one-of-a-kind creation, or part of a tradition now lost? Were there other machines, other devices of equal brilliance that simply vanished with time? If so, then much of what we believe about the progression of human technology may be incomplete. Perhaps history has gaps, entire chapters of genius erased by war, disaster, or neglect. Today, the fragments of the Antikythera mechanism are preserved in the National Archaeological Museum of Athens. Using X-rays and 3D imaging, researchers continue to unlock its secrets, piece by piece. Modern reconstructions now show its true form, a wooden box with bronze gears, dials, and inscriptions, something that looks eerily familiar to anyone who has ever turned the hands of a clock. And yet, its mystery endures. The Antikythera mechanism reminds us that history is not always a straight line of progress. Sometimes knowledge is discovered, lost, and rediscovered centuries later. Sometimes the past is far more advanced than we dare to imagine. 2,000 years ago, in the hands of sailors and scholars, a small bronze machine mapped the heavens. Today, it sits in fragments, whispering to us of forgotten genius, a computer before computers, a cosmos in a box, a message from the ancient world that still asks, who made it, and what else did they know? In one of the coldest, driest, and most remote places on Earth, there is a waterfall the color of blood. Against the stark white of Antarctica's Taylor Glacier, a stream of crimson pours out, staining the ice like a wound that never heals. To the explorers who first saw it in 1911, it seemed impossible. Water flowing in a land of endless ice, and not just water, but water as red as fresh blood. They called it Blood Falls, and for more than a century, it has remained one of the most haunting sights on the frozen continent. At first, scientists struggled to explain the phenomenon. Some thought the color was caused by red algae. Others suspected strange minerals. But as the years passed, the truth emerged. The water pouring from Blood Falls is trapped brine, ancient seawater sealed beneath the glacier millions of years ago. Locked away in darkness and ice, it has been isolated from the rest of the world for longer than human civilization has existed. That brine is rich in salt and iron. As it emerges from the glacier and meets the air, the iron oxidizes, just like rust on metal. The result is a vivid blood-red flow that stains the ice and snow. It is chemistry, simple and clear. And yet, even in its explanation, the mystery only deepens. For within that briny water, scientists discovered something astonishing. Life. Microbes sealed beneath the glacier have survived in conditions that seem utterly impossible. No sunlight, no oxygen, temperatures far below freezing. And yet they live, feeding on the minerals and salts, adapting to an environment we once thought could not sustain life. Blood Falls, in its eerie beauty, is not just a strange chemical reaction. It is a hidden ecosystem, thriving against all odds. The implications are profound. If microbes can survive beneath Antarctica, in the dark, frozen brine of a glacier, then life may not be limited to the warm, sunlit corners of Earth. Similar environments exist elsewhere in the solar system. Beneath the icy crusts of Europa, a moon of Jupiter, or Enceladus, a moon of Saturn, vast oceans lie hidden. If life can persist here, in Antarctica's icy heart, why not there? Blood Falls may be a window not just into our planet's secrets, but into the possibilities of life beyond it. Standing before Blood Falls is like staring at a contradiction. It is both beautiful and unsettling, a river of color in a land of white. The glacier itself is silent, timeless, vast, and yet from its depths comes this crimson flow. A reminder that beneath the frozen stillness of Antarctica lies movement, life, and mystery. It is a natural wonder that feels almost supernatural. Over a century after its discovery, Blood Falls continues to fascinate scientists and explorers alike. It tells a story of survival, of adaptation, of resilience in the harshest of places. It also tells us something humbling, that our world is still full of hidden ecosystems, waiting in the shadows, reminding us that life is not fragile, but persistent. That even in places of death and ice, life finds a way. And so, Blood Falls remains more than just a waterfall. It is a message, flowing endlessly from the heart of a glacier, whispering of secrets buried in ice. A message that says, life may be far more common and far more enduring than we ever believed. In the dry caves near the Dead Sea, where ancient texts once lay hidden for centuries, archaeologists made a discovery unlike any other. Among the fragile scrolls of parchment and papyrus, fragments of scripture, hymns and records of a vanished people, there was one that stood apart. Not written on animal skin, not ink on paper, but carved into thin sheets of copper. A scroll that was not meant to be read by candlelight, but to endure. And what it contained was no ordinary message. It was a list of treasure, vast hoards of gold and silver hidden across the land. This is the Copper Scroll, the strangest of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and one of history's greatest unsolved mysteries. Discovered in 1952 in Cave 3 at Qumran, the Copper Scroll immediately stood out. While the other scrolls were religious or historical in nature, this one read more like a map. It describes 64 locations where staggering amounts of treasure are said to be buried. Gold, silver, vessels, and riches beyond measure. Some scholars have estimated the total value could equal tons of precious metal, enough to rival the wealth of entire kingdoms. If true, it would be the greatest treasure hoard ever recorded. And yet, despite decades of searching, not a single piece has ever been found. The text is detailed, naming landmarks, distances, and even measurements of depth. In the cistern under the stairs, in the mound near the spring. Each entry tantalizes with specificity, but the landmarks themselves are either lost to time or so vague they could be anywhere. Without context, the directions are like riddles written in stone, pointing to places that may no longer exist. This has led to endless debate. Was the Copper Scroll a literal inventory, a real record of hidden riches, perhaps stored away by the Jewish temple authorities before the Roman conquest of Jerusalem? Or was it symbolic, a spiritual metaphor written in the language of treasure? Some believe the wealth described was too vast to be real, that the scroll's purpose was allegory, not accounting. Others remain convinced that somewhere beneath the soil of Israel or Jordan, unimaginable treasure still waits, its guardians long forgotten, its hiding places erased by centuries. The Copper Scroll is also unusual because of its medium. Carved into copper sheets, not parchment, it could not be easily destroyed. Whoever made it wanted it to last, to endure until it was needed, or until the right people came to claim its secret. Was it meant as a guide for allies, a warning to enemies, or simply a record of wealth that could not be spoken aloud? The material itself suggests intent, permanence, importance. But perhaps the real treasure of the Copper Scroll is not gold or silver at all. It is the mystery it carries, the way it blurs the line between legend and reality, the way it fuels the imagination of treasure hunters, historians, and dreamers alike. It reminds us that even in our modern age, there are still secrets buried beneath the earth, hidden in texts too old to fully understand. Today, the copper scroll rests in the Jordan Museum, its words preserved but unanswered. It has never given up its hoard, if indeed there ever was one. And so it remains a question more than an answer. A riddle in metal, a treasure map that may lead nowhere, or perhaps everywhere. Was it real treasure hidden away forever? Or was the treasure always symbolic, a wealth not of gold, but of meaning? The copper scroll will not say. It endures in silence, a list of riches the world may never see. In the vast deserts of northern Mexico, stretching across the state of Durango, there is a region whispered about in legend. A place where compasses spin aimlessly, radios fall silent, and strange lights dance in the sky. Here, travelers speak of odd sensations, of time lost, of technology that suddenly refuses to work. Scientists call it the Mapimi Silent Zone. To locals, it is simpler. They call it the Zone of Silence. The mystery first drew global attention in the 1970s when a US missile test went wrong. A rocket launched from New Mexico veered off course and crashed in this remote desert. The American military quickly moved in, conducting a recovery operation and leaving behind questions that fueled local stories. Why here, in the middle of nowhere? Why did their instruments fail in this very spot? And why did they return later, quietly, to conduct further studies? The Zone of Silence lives up to its name. For reasons still not fully understood, radio signals often fail here. Compasses swing without direction. Travelers report equipment malfunctioning without cause. Geologists note that the region lies along the 27th parallel, an alignment it shares with other strange places, including the Bermuda Triangle and the Egyptian pyramids. Some suggest this latitude itself holds significance, though no one can explain why. There is also the matter of the sky. For reasons no one fully understands, the Zone of Silence has an unusually high rate of meteor strikes. Fragments of celestial rock are found scattered across its sands, as though the heavens themselves are drawn to this patch of Earth. Some scientists point to magnetic anomalies or gravitational quirks. Others see it as coincidence. But to those who live nearby, it only deepens the sense that this desert is no ordinary place. And then come the stories. Accounts of glowing orbs hovering silently over the landscape, of strange humanoid figures appearing, speaking briefly, then vanishing into the desert, of visitors who feel watched, even when they are alone. Some say the zone is a portal, a window between worlds. Others insist it is a landing ground for UFOs, explaining both the lights in the sky and the failures of human technology. Official science rejects such claims, but it cannot fully explain the region's anomalies either. For decades, researchers have studied the Zone of Silence. Some believe mineral deposits in the ground interfere with signals. Others suggest ancient volcanic activity left behind magnetic fields that distort compasses. But none of these explanations fully account for all the phenomena reported. The truth may be natural, but it remains elusive, slipping through our grasp like sand through fingers. To walk in the Zone of Silence is to feel unease. The desert is vast, empty, and strangely quiet. Technology falters, and the sense of isolation deepens. At night, the stars blaze overhead, brighter than almost anywhere else on Earth. And sometimes, among them, lights move in ways they should not. Whether tricks of the eye, meteors, or something stranger, the effect is undeniable. It feels as though the desert is alive, whispering secrets we cannot quite hear. The Zone of Silence stands today as one of the great unsolved mysteries of Mexico, a Bermuda Triangle on land, a place where science, myth, and imagination collide. Is it geology, magnetism, or something we have yet to name? Whatever the truth, the desert keeps it close, offering only silence in reply. High above Earth, in the silent void of orbit, countless satellites circle the planet, human-made machines of metal and wire. But among them, some say, there is another, a dark object that does not belong to us. For decades, it has been called the Black Knight satellite, an alleged alien probe said to have watched Earth for thousands of years. Part myth, part mystery, and part conspiracy, it remains one of the strangest legends of the space age. The story begins in the late 19th century, when inventor Nikola Tesla reported picking up unexplained radio signals during his experiments. He believed they may have come from intelligent life beyond Earth. In the 1920s, radio operators again detected mysterious transmissions they could not explain. Then, in 1954, newspapers reported that the U.S. Air Force had detected 2 unknown satellites orbiting Earth at a time when no nation had yet launched one. The rumors spread. Was something already up there, circling silently above us? In 1960, radar picked up a dark object in polar orbit, an orbit not used by any satellites of the time. Journalists dubbed it the Black Knight. NASA dismissed it as a piece of space debris, likely from earlier missions. But in the years that followed, the legend only grew. Astronauts reported strange encounters, and photographs taken during missions showed a curious, angular object drifting in space. To believers, it was proof. To skeptics, it was simply a thermal blanket accidentally released during a mission, tumbling end over end. Yet the mystery endured. The myth deepened when people connected it to long-delayed echoes, radio signals that seemed to bounce back from space seconds after transmission. Could these echoes have been messages relayed by an object in orbit? And if so, who placed it there? Some conspiracy theorists claimed the Black Knight had been orbiting for 13,000 years, left by an ancient civilization or an extraterrestrial intelligence. Others tied it to myths of ancient star beings, guardians watching from above. NASA has repeatedly explained the photos, identifying the supposed Black Knight as debris or ordinary spacecraft equipment. The official position is clear. There is no alien satellite, only human-made objects misinterpreted through speculation. But for many, the explanations are not enough. The images remain eerie, the stories too persistent, the coincidences too compelling to fully dismiss. The Black Knight refuses to fade, its legend orbiting our imagination just as surely as the object itself is said to orbit our world. What makes the Black Knight so powerful as a mystery is not proof, but possibility. The idea that humanity might not be alone, that we may have been observed long before we ever reached the stars, that a silent sentinel, ancient and patient, could still be circling overhead, waiting for the right moment to reveal its purpose. Whether real, misunderstood, or purely myth, the Black Knight speaks to our deepest curiosity about the universe and our place within it. Look up at the night sky, and you will see satellites drifting like stars across the dark. Somewhere among them, believers say, the Black Knight moves still, watching, waiting. A legend in orbit, circling forever on the edge of truth and imagination. In the blistering heat of California's Death Valley, where the land is cracked and dry, and silence stretches across the desert floor, something extraordinary happens. On the surface of a vast, barren lakebed called Racetrack Playa, heavy stones move. not rolled by human hands, not dragged by animals. They move on their own, slowly, silently, leaving long, etched trails behind them in the hardened mud. These are the sailing stones, and for decades they were one of Earth's strangest natural mysteries. The stones themselves are ordinary. Some are small, others weigh hundreds of pounds. Yet across the flat playa, they seem to defy nature. Their trails stretch for dozens of meters, sometimes curving, sometimes parallel, as if two stones had raced together. And then suddenly, they stop, frozen in place, their long scars carved into the desert floor, like signatures left behind. To stand among them is to feel disoriented. These rocks should not move. And yet, the evidence lies plainly before your eyes. For nearly a century, scientists puzzled over the mystery. Explanations ranged from the rational to the fantastic. Some believed powerful winds pushed the stones, though skeptics wondered how even hurricane-force gusts could move such weight. Others speculated about magnetic fields or unseen forces beneath the earth. More imaginative theories spoke of tricksters or even extraterrestrials, quietly shifting the stones in the night. But year after year, the mystery endured. No one had ever actually seen the stones move. Then, in 2014, researchers finally solved the riddle. Cameras placed across Racetrack Playa captured the stones in motion. The answer was surprising, and yet no less surreal. During rare winter nights, thin sheets of ice formed on the playa. As the morning sun rose, the ice began to break apart, pushed gently by the wind. These floating panels acted like slow-moving rafts, nudging the stones along the slick, wet mud. Inch by inch, they glided, leaving behind the long tracks that had mystified generations. The process was slow, almost imperceptible, yet entirely natural. The revelation did not diminish the wonder. If anything, it deepened it. Nature, through nothing more than ice, wind, and sun, had created a phenomenon that seemed almost magical. The stones still sail across the playa, though only under rare and fleeting conditions. To witness it is to see Earth's hidden artistry, a choreography of elements that lasts only hours before vanishing again into silence. The sailing stones of Death Valley remind us of something important, that not every mystery must remain unsolved, that sometimes science can explain the seemingly impossible, and the truth can be as beautiful as the unknown. The rocks move not through magic or myth. Wind and ice, sun and stone, working together to create wonder. And yet, even knowing the answer, the sight of those trails across the desert floor still feels otherworldly, as if the earth itself were alive, slowly shifting in secret. Some mysteries endure because they are never solved. Others endure because even when solved, they never lose their power to amaze. The sailing stones of Death Valley belong to the latter, proof that answers do not end wonder, and that sometimes Earth's simplest forces create its strangest miracles. In the hills of eastern China's Zhejiang province, hidden beneath villages and farmland, lies one of the most astonishing archaeological enigmas ever found. Vast chambers carved deep into solid rock, their walls perfectly smooth, their ceilings soaring like cathedrals. No natural caves exist here. Every surface bears the mark of human hands. Yet there are no records, no inscriptions, no mention in history of who built them or why. These are the Longyu Caves, an underground world carved in silence, a monumental effort lost to time. The caves were first discovered in 1992, when local farmers drained a pond that had covered one of the entrances for generations. What they expected was a shallow pit. What they uncovered was a vast chamber descending into darkness. More digging revealed more caves, each as grand as the first. Today, at least 24 have been identified, sprawling beneath the land like the hollowed-out heart of a mountain. Each chamber is immense, some large enough to house entire buildings. The walls are carved with remarkable precision, covered in uniform parallel lines that sweep across the stone like brushstrokes, as if the builders had polished the rock with immense tools. The ceilings are high, the columns massive, the scale overwhelming. It is estimated that more than 1 million cubic meters of rock were removed to create them, a feat that would have required thousands of workers and decades of labor. Yet history is silent. No ancient texts describe the caves. No artifacts have been found inside. No sign of the tools or scaffolding that must have been used. It is as if the caves simply appeared, carved by invisible hands. The mystery only deepens when one considers their survival. The rock should be unstable, prone to collapse. And yet, for more than 2,000 years, if not longer, the chambers have remained intact, their walls unbroken, their ceilings unfallen. The engineering is so precise that even modern architects marvel at how they were designed. Whoever built them understood stone on a level we can barely comprehend. Why were they made? Some suggest they were quarries, but the effort to carve them with such symmetry seems unnecessary for simple stone cutting. Others propose they were places of worship, or tombs for rulers whose names have long since vanished. A few see them as hidden palaces or military shelters, built to withstand siege and war. And then, of course, there are more speculative voices, those who wonder if the caves were built by a lost civilization, one not recorded in our history books, leaving behind only these empty cathedrals of stone as their legacy. Walking inside, the silence is overwhelming. Light bounces off the smooth surfaces, casting shadows across patterns that repeat endlessly. The air is still. It feels less like a ruin and more like a secret preserved, waiting for someone to understand its purpose. The absence of artifacts, of any trace of daily life, only heightens the mystery. These are not caves of the living. They are monuments of intent, carved with effort beyond imagination, for reasons we still cannot name. The Longyu Caves remind us that not all mysteries are found in forgotten texts or distant stars. Some are carved directly into the earth itself, their makers gone, their purpose erased, their achievement undeniable. They stand as silent proof that history does not always tell the whole story, that civilizations may rise, create wonders, and vanish without leaving behind a word. In China's quiet countryside, beneath the surface of the land, lies a riddle of stone. Perfect chambers, smooth walls, empty silence. A monument not to what we know, but to all that we have yet to learn. Far beyond our solar system, more than 1,000 light-years away, there is a star that behaves unlike any other we've ever seen. To the naked eye, it looks ordinary, a faint point of light among billions. But to astronomers, it has become one of the most puzzling mysteries in the universe. Its brightness flickers and fades in ways no star should, sometimes dimming by just a little, sometimes by more than 20%, as if vast shadows are crossing in front of it. This is KIC 8462852, better known as Tabby's star, and it may be the strangest star in the sky. The mystery first emerged in 2015, when citizen scientists examining data from NASA's Kepler Space Telescope noticed something unusual. Most stars flicker predictably when planets pass in front of them, creating small, regular dips in brightness. But Tabby's star was different. Its dimming was irregular, unpredictable, and far too extreme to be explained by orbiting planets. something else was happening. Something big enough to block enormous amounts of light from a star larger than our sun. At first, astronomers considered natural explanations. Perhaps massive clouds of dust or gas were drifting between us and the star, scattering its light. Others suggested swarms of comets breaking apart, their icy tails obscuring the star in chaotic patterns. Still others proposed that the star itself might be unstable, undergoing processes we do not yet fully understand. But none of these explanations fit perfectly. The dimming was too deep, too strange, too irregular. It did not behave like anything we had seen before. And so, another theory emerged, one that captured the world's imagination. Could Tabby's star be surrounded by an alien megastructure? Some envisioned vast solar panels, built to harness the star's energy. Others imagined a Dyson sphere, a colossal shell constructed by an advanced civilization to capture nearly all the light of their sun. It was speculation, yes, but speculation grounded in the fact that no natural cause had yet been proven. For a time, Tabby's star was called the best candidate for extraterrestrial engineering ever discovered. As years passed, more data poured in. Most scientists now lean toward dust as the explanation. Tiny particles that can block light unevenly, creating the strange dimming patterns. Observations in infrared, for example, suggest dust is likely involved. But even this does not fully solve the mystery. The scale of the dimming is still enormous, and the exact cause remains unclear. Every new observation brings more questions than answers. The debate continues, alive with both skepticism and curiosity. What makes Tabby's star so fascinating is that its story is unfolding in real time. Unlike ancient ruins or frozen mysteries locked in ice, this is happening now, before our eyes. Astronomers around the world watch the star constantly, waiting for its next dip, its next unexplained flicker. Each time it fades, the excitement rises again. Is it dust? Comets? Something entirely new? Or just maybe the shadow of intelligence far beyond our own? For now, Tabby's star keeps its secrets. It is a cosmic riddle suspended in the dark, teasing us with hints of something vast and unknown. Whether its explanation proves natural or extraordinary, the journey toward understanding it reminds us of how much of the universe still lies beyond our grasp. We look to the stars for answers, and sometimes the stars look back with silence and mystery. Far out in the Pacific Ocean, more than 2,000 miles from the nearest continent, lies a small island of volcanic rock. Remote, isolated, a speck of green surrounded by endless blue. Yet here, centuries ago, a people carved monuments so massive, so mysterious, that they have become icons of human ingenuity. Towering stone figures with solemn faces, staring endlessly at the horizon. They are the Moai of Easter Island, silent guardians of a vanished culture. There are nearly 900 Moai scattered across the island, some standing proudly on stone platforms, others lying unfinished in quarries, abandoned mid-creation. At first glance, they appear as giant heads, their features carved with distinct brows, noses, and lips. But excavations revealed something more. Beneath the ground, many of these figures have full bodies, buried up to their shoulders by centuries of soil. Some rise over 30 feet tall, weighing more than 80 tons. The sheer scale of the Moai raises questions that have puzzled researchers for generations. Why were they made? And how were they moved? The people of Rapa Nui, the island's inhabitants, likely carved the statues between the 13th and 16th centuries. Most scholars believe the Moai represented ancestors or important chiefs, their presence meant to watch over the island and its people. Others suggest the statues were tied to astronomy, aligned with celestial events, or placed as markers of territory and power. Each theory tells us something about the society that built them, but none can answer everything. Equally mysterious is how these immense figures were transported. The islanders had no beasts of burden, no metal tools, and few trees large enough to serve as rollers. Yet the Moai were moved miles from their quarry to the platforms where they still stand. The most accepted theory is that ropes were used to walk the statues upright, rocking them forward step by step. Recent experiments with replicas have shown this may have been possible, but others wonder if there were methods lost to time, techniques of balance and leverage known only to the Rapa Nui. What is certain is that the building of the Moai required extraordinary effort and organization. Communities would have worked together to carve, transport, and raise each statue, investing years into a single figure. The Moai were not just monuments. They were the center of culture, faith, and identity. To erect them was to connect with the ancestors, to bind the living to the spirit world. And yet, in time, the society that built them declined. Deforestation, resource scarcity, and conflict all played a role. By the time European explorers arrived in the 18th century, many Moai had been toppled, their meaning already fading into mystery. Today, the Moai stand as haunting reminders of a culture both brilliant and fragile. Their faces, stoic and unblinking, gaze outward as if searching for something beyond the horizon. They speak of human ambition, the desire to leave behind a legacy in stone, to outlast time itself. And in that, the Rapa Nui succeeded. Though their civilization declined, their statues endure, immense, enigmatic, eternal. The Moai of Easter Island are more than stone figures. They are questions carved in volcanic rock. Who were these ancestors they represent? What knowledge did their makers possess? And how much of that knowledge was lost with them? In their silence, the Moai remind us of the fragile line between greatness and decline, and of the mysteries cultures can leave behind when they vanish into history. Far out in the Pacific Ocean, more than 2,000 miles from the nearest continent, lies a small island of volcanic rock. Remote, isolated, a speck of green surrounded by endless blue. Yet here, centuries ago, a people carved monuments so massive, so mysterious, that they have become icons of human ingenuity. Towering stone figures with solemn faces, staring endlessly at the horizon. They are the Moai of Easter Island, silent guardians of a vanished culture. There are nearly 900 Moai scattered across the island, some standing proudly on stone platforms, others lying unfinished in quarries, abandoned mid-creation. At first glance, they appear as giant heads, their features carved with distinct brows, noses, and lips. But excavations revealed something more. Beneath the ground, many of these figures have full bodies, buried up to their shoulders by centuries of soil. Some rise over 30 feet tall, weighing more than 80 tons. The sheer scale of the Moai raises questions that have puzzled researchers for generations. Why were they made, and how were they moved? The people of Rapa Nui, the island's inhabitants, likely carved the statues between the 13th and 16th centuries. Most scholars believe the Moai represented ancestors or important chiefs, their presence meant to watch over the island and its people. Others suggest the statues were tied to astronomy, aligned with celestial events, or placed as markers of territory and power. Each theory tells us something about the society that built them, but none can answer everything. Equally mysterious is how these immense figures were transported. The islanders had no beasts of burden, no metal tools, and few trees large enough to serve as rollers. Yet the Moai were moved miles from their quarry to the platforms where they still stand. The most accepted theory is that ropes were used to walk the statues upright, rocking them forward step by step. Recent experiments with replicas have shown this may have been possible, but others wonder if there were methods lost to time, techniques of balance and leverage known only to the Rapa Nui. What is certain is that the building of the Moai required extraordinary effort and organization. Communities would have worked together to carve, transport, and raise each statue, investing years into a single figure. The Moai were not just monuments. They were the center of culture, faith, and identity. To erect them was to connect with the ancestors, to bind the living to the spirit world. And yet, in time, the society that built them declined. Deforestation, resource scarcity, and conflict all played a role. By the time European explorers arrived in the 18th century, many Moai had been toppled, their meaning already fading into mystery. Today, the Moai stand as haunting reminders of a culture both brilliant and fragile. Their faces, stoic and unblinking, gaze outward as if searching for something beyond the horizon. They speak of human ambition, the desire to leave behind a legacy in stone, to outlast time itself. And in that, the Rapa Nui succeeded. Though their civilization declined, their statues endure, immense, enigmatic, eternal. The Moai of Easter Island are more than stone figures. They are questions carved in volcanic rock. Who were these ancestors they represent? What knowledge did their makers possess? And how much of that knowledge was lost with them? In their silence, the Moai remind us of the fragile line between greatness and decline, and of the mysteries cultures can leave behind when they vanish into history. In the quiet town of Taos, New Mexico, nestled among deserts and mountains, silence is never truly silent. Beneath the stillness, some residents claim to hear something strange, a constant low-frequency hum, not loud, not sharp, but persistent, like the sound of a distant engine idling or a faint vibration buried in the earth itself. They call it the Taos hum, and for decades it has baffled scientists, frustrated locals, and inspired endless speculation. The hum is unlike ordinary noise. It cannot be traced to a single machine or location. Some hear it only at night, when the world is otherwise still. Others say it follows them, a sound that cannot be escaped, growing louder indoors, fading outdoors, but never vanishing completely. Yet not everyone can hear it. In fact, only about 2% of Taos residents report being affected. For them, it is maddening, a sound that others dismiss as non-existent. To those who hear it, the hum is real. To those who don't, it is imagination. This divide only deepens the mystery. Scientists have tried to solve it. Acoustic studies were conducted in the 1990s with teams of researchers using sensitive equipment to measure vibrations and sound waves across Taos. They detected nothing unusual, no specific frequency, no hidden signal. Some researchers suggest the hum may be caused by industrial noise carried long distances or by radio transmissions bouncing across the landscape. Others point to the Earth itself, microseismic activity or natural vibrations amplified by the terrain. And yet, none of these explanations have been proven. The hum persists, and its source remains elusive. For those who live with it, the hum is more than a curiosity. It affects sleep, concentration, even mental health. Some describe headaches, nausea, or anxiety from the constant vibration. It is not merely a sound, it is an intrusion, a presence woven into daily life. The fact that only a fraction of people can hear it adds to its eerie nature. Why some and not others? Is it a matter of hearing sensitivity or something deeper? An interaction between environment, body, and perception that science does not yet understand. And of course, the unexplained invites speculation. Some believe the hum may be caused by secret military experiments in the deserts of New Mexico. Others whisper of UFO activity, of transmissions not of this world. Still others suggest it is something within our own bodies, an interaction between modern life and human perception, a kind of internal resonance triggered by forces we cannot measure. Whatever the theory, the Taos hum has become part of the town's identity, a puzzle that refuses to fade. The Taos hum is not unique. Similar reports exist around the world, in England, in Canada, in Australia. Low-frequency hums that defy explanation, heard only by a small percentage of people. Perhaps the mystery is global. Perhaps it is something fundamental, a hidden rhythm of Earth itself, one that only a few can hear. If so, the hum is not just a sound, but a secret language of the planet, vibrating just beneath the threshold of silence. To walk the streets of Taos at night is to hear what most cannot. A low, steady drone, somewhere between sound and sensation. A soundscape of mystery, echoing through the desert air. For some, it is a torment. For others, a fascination. For all of us, it is a reminder that even in the modern world, even with all our science and technology, there are still things we cannot explain. The earth hums, and we do not know why. In the jungles of southern Mexico, fragments of an ancient civilization remain, silent, staring, carved from stone. Massive heads, some taller than a person, others weighing more than 40 tons. Their faces frozen in stern expressions. They wear helmets or headdresses, their features bold and distinct. These are the colossal heads of the Olmec civilization, monuments of mystery, created more than 3,000 years ago, and still raising questions we cannot fully answer. The Olmec are often called the mother culture of Mesoamerica. Flourishing between 1500 and 400 BCE, they lived long before the Maya and the Aztec, yet their influence can be seen in the civilizations that followed. They built ceremonial centers, created intricate art, and developed systems of writing and religion. But nothing they left behind is more striking than the colossal heads. 17 have been found to date, scattered across ancient Olmec sites like San Lorenzo, La Venta, and Tres Zapotes. Each head is unique. Some show youthful faces, others older, more weathered ones. The helmets they wear suggest warriors or ball players, while others see them as crowns, symbols of rulership. Scholars debate their meaning. Were they portraits of powerful rulers, immortalized in stone? Were they representations of gods, guardians of sacred spaces? Or were they tied to the Mesoamerican ball game, a ritual sport with deep symbolic meaning? We do not know. The Olmec left no written explanation, only the heads themselves, gazing silently across the centuries. The mystery deepens when we consider how they were made. The stone used is basalt, a volcanic rock found miles away from Olmec settlements. Some blocks came from mountains more than 50 miles distant. How did a people with no wheels, no beasts of burden, and no metal tools carve and transport such massive stones? To shape a 40-ton block with stone chisels and move it across rivers and jungle would have required extraordinary skill and organization. Yet the Olmec achieved it, leaving behind monuments that still stand today. The scale of the effort suggests the heads were more than mere decorations. They were symbols, expressions of power, belief, and identity. To carve a single head may have taken months or even years, To move it, hundreds of people working in unison. They were community projects on a grand scale, uniting society around the creation of something that would last beyond generations. And last they did. Thousands of years later, the heads remain, their faces intact, their gaze unbroken. What strikes those who see them today is how lifelike they are. The faces are individualized, not generic, suggesting they may be true portraits of real people. If so, then the heads preserve the likenesses of rulers long forgotten, their power remembered only in stone. To stand before one is to meet the eyes of an individual who lived 3 millennia ago, a rare connection across the gulf of time. The Olmec colossal heads remind us that history is not a straight path of progress. Long before the great empires of Mesoamerica, a civilization we barely understand was shaping massive monuments with skill and vision. They remind us of the fragility of memory, how entire cultures can rise, achieve greatness, and vanish, leaving behind only fragments that spark endless questions. Were they rulers, gods, players, symbols of something deeper? The heads will not answer. They will only watch, as they always have, guardians of a civilization whose voice has been lost to history. When we look into the night sky, we see galaxies scattered across the cosmos like islands of light. Each spins, drifts, and moves through space in its own direction. But when astronomers mapped these motions, they discovered something extraordinary. Our galaxy, the Milky Way, is not drifting randomly. It is being pulled, along with hundreds of thousands of other galaxies, toward a mysterious point in the universe, a place hidden behind clouds of stars and dust. A place we cannot see, but whose gravity is undeniable. Scientists call it the Great Attractor, and no one knows exactly what it is. The discovery came in the 1970s and 80s, when astronomers measured the motion of galaxies in our cosmic neighborhood. They found that the Milky Way, along with the entire local group of galaxies, is rushing through space at nearly 600 kilometers per second. Not drifting outward as expected, but being drawn toward a massive concentration of something. But what? The source lay in the direction of the constellation Centaurus, in a region of sky obscured by the plane of our own galaxy. A hidden zone astronomers call the zone of avoidance, because even our best telescopes cannot see through the dense dust and stars that block the view. What lies there is still uncertain. Some suggest it is a supercluster of galaxies so vast that its combined gravity tugs entire regions of the universe toward it. Others believe it may be something even stranger, dark matter on a colossal scale, invisible but powerful, shaping the motion of everything around it. Some go further still, speculating that it may be a doorway to physics we do not yet understand. Whatever it is, its pull is real, dragging our galaxy toward it across unimaginable distances. The Great Attractor is not small. Its gravitational influence stretches hundreds of millions of light years. Entire superclusters of galaxies are flowing toward it, caught in its invisible current. Our own Milky Way, too, is part of this motion, an unknowing traveler in a cosmic river we cannot escape. In billions of years, our galaxy's position in the universe will be shaped by this hidden force, even as we still struggle to understand its nature. For astronomers, the Great Attractor is a humbling reminder of how little we know about the universe. We can measure its effects, but cannot see its cause. We can map its influence, but not its substance. It exists as a shadow of gravity, a hidden presence shaping the fate of galaxies. To this day, despite advances in observation and technology, the Great Attractor remains shrouded in mystery, veiled by the stars of our own galaxy, daring us to look deeper. What is the Great Attractor? A cluster of galaxies? A concentration of dark matter? Something beyond our imagination? For now, we can only guess, but every measurement, every observation confirms the same truth. We are being pulled by something vast, something powerful, something unknown. The universe is not static, it is in motion. And somewhere, in the dark, the Great Attractor is waiting. In the forests of northern Minnesota, where rivers cut through ancient rock and waterfalls thunder through deep gorges, there is one that seems to break the laws of nature. A waterfall where half the river vanishes into a hole in the earth, and no one can say exactly where it goes. This is the Devil's Kettle, a natural riddle that has baffled scientists, explorers, and locals for generations. The Brule River runs through Judge C.R. Magny State Park, cascading over a series of rocky drops. But at one point, the river splits. One stream tumbles normally down the falls, rushing onward to Lake Superior. The other pours into a dark chasm, a massive pothole carved into the bedrock. There, the water disappears, swallowed by the earth. For decades, no one knew where it re-emerged. It simply vanished, as if the earth itself had devoured it. Curiosity led to countless experiments. Researchers dropped dye into the hole, waiting to see it emerge downstream. It never appeared. Ping-pong balls, sticks, even GPS trackers, all vanished into the depths, never to be seen again. It was as if the Devil's Kettle swallowed anything thrown into it, hiding the evidence forever. Theories spread. Perhaps the water flowed into underground caverns, or slipped through cracks in the bedrock into hidden aquifers. Some even suggested it might connect to vast underground rivers or emerge miles away, unseen. But none of these ideas were ever confirmed. For years, the Devil's Kettle became a symbol of mystery, a natural wonder that refused to give up its secret. The name itself fueled legend. Stories of bottomless pits, supernatural forces, even gateways to other worlds. Hikers would peer into the roaring hole, feeling the strange thrill of staring into the unknown. Where did the water go? And why could no one find it? Only recently have scientists begun to untangle the riddle. Careful measurements of the river's flow above and below the falls revealed something unexpected. The volume of water entering the kettle matched the volume leaving downstream, which means the water was never truly lost. It simply rejoined the river below in ways too turbulent or hidden for earlier tests to detect. The dye and tracers may have been diluted or trapped, their signals erased by the chaos of rushing currents. The mystery, it seems, may have a natural explanation after all. And yet, the Devil's Kettle has not lost its aura. Even if science can account for the water, the sight of it vanishing into the earth remains mesmerizing. To watch a river split, one half rushing on, the other disappearing into darkness, is to be reminded of the power of nature to surprise us. It is a reminder that even the most ordinary landscapes can hold extraordinary secrets. The Devil's Kettle endures not just as a geological curiosity, but as a story, a place where mystery and science meet, where legends grow, and where the earth still whispers that it has not revealed all of its secrets. To stand at its edge is to feel the pull of the unknown, and to hear the eternal question carried on the roar of the falls. Where does the water go? In the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia, cradle of civilization, archaeologists uncovered artifacts that seemed ordinary at first. Small clay jars sealed with asphalt stoppers. Inside, a copper cylinder. Within the cylinder, an iron rod. simple objects buried for more than 2,000 years. But when studied closely, these jars revealed something astonishing. When filled with an acidic liquid, like vinegar or lemon juice, they could generate a small electrical current. These artifacts became known as the Baghdad batteries, and they raise one of history's strangest questions. Did the ancients harness electricity long before we believed possible? The jars were discovered in the 1930s near Baghdad, dating back to the Parthian or Sassanid period, around 200 BCE to 200 CE. At first, they were thought to be storage containers, but when German archaeologist Wilhelm König examined them, he proposed a radical idea that they were primitive galvanic cells, capable of producing voltage. In other words, batteries, built nearly 2 millennia before the modern world rediscovered the technology. If true, their existence could rewrite history. But what were they used for? One theory suggests electroplating, coating objects of silver or gold with a thin metallic sheen using electricity. Others propose they may have been used in medicine, delivering mild electric shocks as a form of healing ritual. Some think they had religious or symbolic significance, their strange properties used to inspire awe among worshippers. And then there are those who wonder if they were simply accidental, their design coincidentally resembling a modern battery without any knowledge of electricity at all. What makes the Baghdad batteries so tantalizing is that they stand alone. No ancient texts describe their purpose. No workshops or large-scale use has ever been found. If they truly were batteries, then they may represent a forgotten experiment, a glimpse into knowledge that was never fully developed. Perhaps a craftsman stumbled upon the effect by accident, combining materials that produced a spark, then replicating the design without understanding its potential. Or perhaps they were part of a tradition of practical science that vanished without a trace, erased by time and conquest. Modern experiments have shown that replicas of the Baghdad batteries can indeed generate electricity, just a volt or two, enough to power a faint light or cause a tingling sensation. Not enough to change the world, but enough to suggest intent, enough to make us wonder, were the ancients closer to modern technology than we realize? How much knowledge has been lost in the rise and fall of civilizations? And what other discoveries might still lie buried beneath the sands? Today, the Baghdad batteries remain in museums, silent and enigmatic. To some, they are proof that human ingenuity reaches further back than we imagine. To others, they are curiosities, misinterpreted relics of a different purpose. Either way, they remind us that history is not complete, that what we think of as progress may not be a straight line, but a cycle. Knowledge gained, lost, and rediscovered again. The Baghdad batteries whisper of a forgotten science. Clay jars, copper, iron, and acid. Simple ingredients, combined into something extraordinary. Whether they were tools, rituals, or accidents, they stand as a reminder that the ancients were not only builders of stone, but experimenters, thinkers, and innovators. And that sometimes the sparks of human genius appear long before their time. In a remote valley of central Norway, where mountains rise against the northern sky and rivers cut through the silence, strange lights have appeared for generations. Floating orbs glowing in the night. Sometimes white, sometimes yellow, sometimes flashing red or blue. They drift across the valley, hover above the ground, or streak suddenly into the sky before vanishing. For centuries, locals called them the Hesdalen Lights. To scientists, they remain one of Earth's most persistent unsolved mysteries. Reports of the lights go back to the 1800s, but it was in the 1980s that the phenomenon became widely known. Dozens of sightings were recorded each week. Farmers, tourists, and entire groups of witnesses watched the glowing spheres move silently across the valley. Unlike many unexplained lights, these were not just stories. They were photographed, filmed, and studied on site. The Hessdalen lights were real, but their nature was unknown. Scientists began to investigate. The Hessdalen Project, launched in the 1980s, set up cameras and instruments in the valley. They confirmed what locals had seen: glowing orbs, lasting minutes or even hours, sometimes moving against the wind, sometimes hovering as if alive. Spectral analysis revealed the lights contained unusual elements, possibly linked to plasma, but not behaving like lightning or ball lightning. They seemed to be a natural phenomenon, but one unlike anything else we know. Theories abound. Some suggest the valley's unique geology creates electrical discharges when metallic minerals interact with groundwater, igniting glowing plasma in the sky. Others propose piezoelectric effects, rocks under pressure generating energy that escapes as light. Still others whisper about UFOs, extraterrestrial craft hiding in plain sight. Yet after decades of study, no explanation fits perfectly. The lights continue, indifferent to our theories, appearing and vanishing at will. What makes the Hessdalen lights so compelling is that they are both mysterious and documented. Unlike legends or rumors, these lights are recorded, measured, undeniable. And yet, they remain unsolved. Nature's own light show, still defying our understanding. To stand in the valley on a cold night, watching the orbs drift like lanterns across the darkness, is to feel the boundary between science and mystery blur. The Earth itself seems to be speaking in light, and we are still learning how to listen. Off the coast of Gujarat, India, beneath the waters of the Arabian Sea, lies a city long thought to exist only in myth. Ancient texts speak of it, a shining kingdom ruled by Lord Krishna, its palaces glittering with gold, its streets bustling with life. A city said to have been swallowed by the sea thousands of years ago. For centuries, it was legend. But in recent decades, divers and archaeologists discovered something remarkable. Beneath the waves, ruins stretch across the seabed, walls, streets, and structures carved from stone. The lost city of Dwarka may not be legend after all. The Mahabharata, one of India's great epics, describes Dwarka as a magnificent city, built on the western coast and later submerged when Krishna departed from the world. For centuries, the tale was seen as mythology, not history. But in 1988, underwater explorations off the coast of Gujarat revealed ruins spread over several kilometers. Massive stone blocks, foundations, and streets laid out in a grid-like pattern. Evidence of a city far older than expected. Carbon dating of artifacts found nearby suggests the site may be more than 9,000 years old, predating known civilizations of the region by millennia. If true, Dwarka could be one of the oldest cities on Earth, rewriting our understanding of ancient history. Yet the evidence remains debated. Some scholars argue the structures are natural formations shaped by the sea. Others insist they are man-made, proof of a sophisticated culture lost to time. The scale of the ruins, however, is hard to dismiss. Divers have documented walls, pillars, and steps, encrusted with coral but still recognizable. Pottery, tools, and human remains have been found in the area, hinting at habitation. Whether Dwarka was Krishna's city or not, it seems clear that an ancient settlement once stood here, later claimed by the ocean. Like Atlantis in the west, Dwarka blurs the line between myth and archaeology, between story and reality. For the people of India, Dwarka is more than ruins. It is a sacred site, a living legend tied to faith and identity. Pilgrims still travel to modern Dwarka, built on the coast, where temples honor Krishna's memory. Beneath the waters offshore, the stones of the old city sleep in silence, a reminder that myths may carry more truth than we think. The lost city of Dwarka tells us that the past is not always gone. Sometimes it lingers, hidden beneath the sea, waiting for us to find it again. It reminds us that history and legend are not enemies, but companions, that in every myth there may lie a fragment of reality, and that the ocean still guards secrets of civilizations we have yet to fully understand. On a summer day in 1950, the physicist Enrico Fermi posed a simple question to his colleagues over lunch. Looking up at the sky, he asked, "Where is everybody? The universe, by all accounts, should be full of life. There are billions of stars in our galaxy, many with planets, countless chances for life to emerge. And yet, we hear nothing. We see nothing. The cosmos is silent." This contradiction became known as the Fermi paradox, or what some call the Great Silence, and it remains one of the most haunting mysteries of our existence. Mathematically, life should be common. Even if only a small fraction of stars have habitable planets, the number is still staggering. Millions, perhaps billions of potential Earths. In that vastness, intelligent civilizations should have arisen, built technologies, and spread across the stars. Some might even be millions of years older than us, their knowledge and reach unimaginable. If so, their presence should be visible, their signals should be heard, and yet, when we listen, we hear only static. When we look, we see only emptiness. The possible explanations are as unsettling as the question itself. One idea is that life is far rarer than we think. Perhaps the leap from simple microbes to intelligent beings is almost impossible, a miracle that may have happened only once, here on Earth. If so, we may be alone, not just in the galaxy, but in the universe. Another possibility is that intelligent civilizations arise, but do not last. They may destroy themselves with war, exhaust their resources, or fall to disasters before they ever reach the stars. In this view, silence is the graveyard of civilizations, and our future may already be written in their absence. And then there are the stranger ideas. Some scientists suggest that advanced civilizations may choose not to reveal themselves, hiding their presence, creating what is called the cosmic zoo, where Earth is just one exhibit under quiet observation. Others propose that we may not even recognize their signals, that their technology is so advanced it is invisible to us, like radio waves would be to a fish in the sea. Or perhaps the universe is alive with voices, but separated by gulfs of distance and time so vast that we will never hear them. Whatever the explanation, the silence is profound. Each year, our telescopes grow stronger. Each year, our searches expand to new stars and galaxies. And each year, the silence deepens. The night sky is full of light, but no one seems to be speaking. In that silence lies both fear and wonder. Fear that we are truly alone, and wonder at the possibility that the universe is holding secrets just beyond our reach. The great silence forces us to confront our place in the cosmos. Are we a singular accident? A lonely spark in a dark universe? Or are we surrounded by countless others hidden in the silence, waiting for the right moment to reveal themselves? Perhaps the silence is not permanent. Perhaps one day a signal will come and everything will change. But until then, we live beneath the stars, listening, wondering, and asking the same question Fermi asked so long ago. If life should be common, where is it? And in the silence that follows, what does that say about us? In the frozen earth of Russia's Ural Mountains, miners once unearthed a treasure older than any pyramid, older than Stonehenge, older even than the first cities. Buried in peat, preserved for millennia, was a towering wooden figure carved with strange symbols, a statue unlike any other, dating back over 11,000 years. Today, it is recognized as the world's oldest wooden sculpture. It is called the Shigir Idol, and it carries with it a mystery as ancient as humanity itself. The idol was discovered in 1894, pulled piece by piece from the Shigir peat bog. At first, no one grasped its significance. But when reassembled, it revealed a massive figure, once more than 17 feet tall, carved from a single larch tree. Its surface was covered with markings, zigzags, chevrons, and enigmatic faces stacked one above the other. The wood, preserved by the bog, survived where almost no other wooden artifact of such age ever could. Radiocarbon dating later revealed its astonishing antiquity, more than 11,500 years old, twice as old as the pyramids of Egypt. What do its carvings mean? Scholars have debated for decades. Some see the zigzags and lines as a code, a narrative etched into wood, perhaps telling the story of creation or laws for the people who carved it. Others suggest it represents spirits, ancestors, or gods, its faces watching in solemn silence across the ages. A few believe it is a map, a symbolic representation of the world as the ancient hunter-gatherers understood it. Whatever the interpretation, one thing is clear. The Shigir idol was no simple decoration. It was made with intent, with meaning, with a purpose now lost to time. The age of the idol challenges our assumptions about early humanity. At a time when people were thought to be simple hunters, moving in small bands across the land, here was evidence of complex symbolic thought, of spirituality, of art on a monumental scale. The people who carved the Shigir idol were not primitive. They were thinkers, creators, storytellers. They left behind a message, carved into wood, meant to endure. And somehow, against all odds, it has. The idol itself has suffered over the centuries. Once towering more than 5 meters, much of its height has been lost. What remains is preserved in a museum in Yekaterinburg, fragile and priceless. Visitors who stand before it are struck not only by its age, but by its presence. The faces etched into its surface seem to stare back, distant and knowing. The patterns repeat like a language we cannot read. It feels less like an artifact and more like a conversation. One side speaking across 11 millennia, the other struggling to understand. The Shigir idol is the oldest mystery still standing, older than recorded history, older than agriculture. A reminder that even at the dawn of human culture, people sought to carve meaning into the world, to reach beyond survival, to connect with forces greater than themselves. Its true message may never be known, but in its silence, it tells us something universal, that mystery itself is part of who we are, that from the beginning, humanity has asked questions, carved symbols, and left behind puzzles for the future to solve. In the cold forests of the Urals, long before cities or empires, someone took an axe to a tree and carved a story. That story has outlived them, their people, their age. And today, the Shigir idol still stands, the oldest wooden statue on Earth, an ancient voice, whispering from a time when human history had only just begun. From the deserts of Africa to the frozen edges of Antarctica, from the depths of forgotten oceans to the farthest reaches of space. We have journeyed through 30 of Earth's greatest mysteries. Spirals in the Sahara, temples older than history, books no one can read, rivers that boil, stars that flicker without reason. Some of these mysteries may one day be solved, others may endure forever. But together, they remind us of one truth. We live on a planet and in a universe far stranger than we can fully imagine. Every culture that came before us left behind questions: pyramids, carvings, monuments, legends, signals, lights, and echoes. Each one is a fragment of the unknown, a piece of the puzzle of existence, and humanity has always sought to answer them. We dig beneath the earth, we dive into the sea, we scan the skies, we decode the past. In our quest, we uncover truths, but never the final truth. For each answer opens new questions. Each discovery reveals how much more there is to know. Mystery is not an obstacle, it is fuel. It drives science, pushing us to explore, experiment, and expand our understanding. It drives art, inspiring myths, stories, and visions of what might lie beyond the veil of the known. It drives imagination, giving us reason to dream of lost cities, alien contact, forgotten knowledge, and futures yet unwritten. Without mystery, there would be no curiosity, and without curiosity, there would be no progress. The eye of the Sahara reminds us that landscapes carry stories deeper than memory. Göbekli Tepe tells us our ancestors were wiser than we believed. The Voynich Manuscript whispers that not all words can be read. The pyramids rise as proof of ambition. The Wow signal echoes across decades as a voice we cannot place. The boiling river, blood falls, Lake Natron, all remind us that even Earth itself has secrets still unfolding. And when we look beyond our world, to Tabby's star, to the great attractor, to the silence of the universe, we realize the greatest mysteries are not only about the past, but about the future that waits for us among the stars. The journey through these 30 mysteries is not an ending. It is an invitation to wonder, to question, to listen to the silence, to follow the unanswered, to look again at what seems ordinary and find the extraordinary hiding beneath. For every stone carved, every star that flickers, every river that flows red or boils with heat, each is a reminder that the world is alive with riddles, and that mystery itself is part of what makes us human. In the end, what these mysteries reveal is not just the unknown, but ourselves. Our desire to seek, to understand, to push beyond the limits of what we know. And so we close with a truth as timeless as the mysteries we have explored. The more we know, the more we realize how little we truly understand.